Hello, friend. Welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are, of course, going to talk about Mr. Robot Season 3, Episode 1. It is called EPS 3.0 underscore Power Saver Mode .h. Full
Just
spoilers.
.h.
Just H, yeah. I don't know what file name that is, but whatever. So full spoilers for the episode as always, and obviously the past two seasons. But I mean, that goes without saying typically, but I just
Just in case.
first time back. It's been over a year now. So no, we're gonna get into this.
It feels good to have it back, doesn't it?
It does feel good. It's funny because it started and I was like, okay, yeah, obviously I'm glad that but I'm almost glad that Mr. Robot's back in theory. Like, it's not really
It's not
hit me
doing
that
it
it's
yet.
back. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
really hit me that I'm actually excited about it. And maybe just because I've not had time, maybe it's because Twin Peaks was taking up my brain for months. But there was a moment about, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes in, 5 minutes in even. I think actually, do you know what it was? It was when it came up saying USA Network Presents, and it started to pull back. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I'm getting the feelings now. I'm into this. So, now, fair enough, one thing that's changed since last season, now this, you can blame Twin Peaks for this, because with Twin Peaks we decided to start taking notes because it was so dense and there was so many things to read into, that we just decided that for Mr. Robot we'd also be doing a similar approach. So
Pretty much.
we have notes.
I feel justified in that. And yeah, before we even get to the episode, I feel like last year there was some stuff where at the end I thought, yeah, maybe we were kind of going off on one,
Do you know what?
suggesting these things.
I know exactly where you're going.
And then at the end of this episode, I'm like, maybe we were closer than we thought.
I was going to bring that very thing up because it was actually the second last episode last season where we went on in a bit of a rabbit hole, talking about time travel and parallel universes. Now, at the time, I was justified in the rabbit hole, and I was using actual evidence. There was conversations that White Rose had with Dom about
Felt stretched.
it was all these clocks, and he talked about how there was a world where 9/5 didn't happen, and like that's living out at the same time. And we talked about how his whole dual personalities was about wanting to live out the fantasy of both versions, like the other ones in the other timeline. We talked about that, and there was a couple of other things. What the plan was, and the fact that Elliot's favourite movie is Back to the Future Part 2. There was just enough little things there that we were talking about, at least thematically, what that is, and we got a lot of comments saying we went a bit too far. So, in the finale, now admittedly in the finale there was less stuff to do with it, but we made a conscious effort to dial back on the crazy and focus on the matter at hand. And then this episode, this went deep in, this went in head first into some of our crazy. Now,
even early on, like even just with side characters, just mentioning things that I'm like,
absolutely. However, that said, as we go through this, I do want to point out that I still don't necessarily think that there's a literal thing with this going to happen. I still think it largely might be thematic and mean something rather than literal, there's going to be shenanigans with science fiction elements.
I will say there is actual physical evidence in this one that says maybe it could be literal.
Still maybe, though.
Maybe.
I still
maybe.
think it's more about poking at the ideas, potentially, than it is about actually doing it. But
I feel like we are justified in bringing those things up this year.
Oh, yes. If we didn't mention time travel and alternate universes after this episode...
Well, what's the point of us even doing this?
What would we be talking about? This is what this episode hints at in a lot of ways, from a lot of different characters. So, without further ado...
as one of the characters says, they don't believe in coincidences.
Well, yes, White Rose himself says, don't believe in coincidences. So let's go through this. We're going to go through scene by scene. We'll see how long and where this takes us. Possibly insane places. So, we start off at the Red Wheelbarrow barbecue joint. And if you've forgotten, last season, there was actually a few Red Wheelbarrow things of imagery through it. Like, Elliot's notebook was called Red Wheelbarrow. I'd forgotten that. I was kind of like looking up things.
Yeah, he had the menu.
But it was the menu. The menu was the main thing. There was a menu for this place which had some of the notes from Tyrell on it. They were cryptic. They were written on this menu. And of course it makes more sense now, but we see this new character who's Irving. He's at this place and he's in line. He's getting some food, and he's got one of those like punch cards where if
loyalty systems.
Yeah, if you go 10 visits you get a free thing. Maybe it's a donut, whatever. In this case, it's a milkshake. And he's like, "Oh, I get a free milkshake. I'll have a chocolate one." And so, no, on your next visit. And there's this little debate about whether he should get it now. Does it make a difference if he leaves and comes back? And he even points out, like, what constitutes me leaving and coming back? Do I have to go home? Do I just have to walk out the door?
Yeah,
Like,
this is the point where I decided I wanted to take notes because he starts having this and she's like, yeah, but it doesn't really matter. And he's like, no, but it's about the principle of deciding this. And the quote he says is, when we lose our principles, we invite chaos. And that summed up who he is just in that first scene.
yeah, no, it actually does. Also, something I did note down here is when she said, "I can give you a milkshake for $12.99." I just noted down, $12.99. Are you mad? And then I put down. Oh, let me finish. And then I put down next to that, Vince Vega would be shocked.
See, here's the thing. She said, "Oh, I can add it to your meal. It'll be $12.99." I assume that was that was including the milkshake for the total price. Then, like, this would be the new total with the milkshake, not the milkshake alone is that much.
I watched it twice, and both times I heard it as the milkshake is $12.99.
See, no, this is the thing. I heard that at first. I was like, that can't be right. I must be reinterpreting that wrong. It can't be. It must be. The overall cost now is $12.99.
No, see, I don't think it is, and I think part of the reason for it is maybe because of the blackout, all the economic, forgive the word, anxiety after 9/5. I think they're price gouging. I think that's what's happening here.
Maybe then. That is a damn pricey. Who's buying a milkshake for that price? Yeah. I love milkshakes, but come on.
And if you didn't get the Vincent Vega reference, in Pulp Fiction, he's very shocked and appalled that there's a milkshake that costs $5. Oh, we long for those days now. Oh, the good old days where things were cheap. Yeah. But he gets a call. It's obviously you're sort of trying to think of who it is in the scene, but it's from Tyrell. It becomes very clear it's from Tyrell. It's directly tying into the end of the last season where he shot Elliot when he tried to stop the plan to take down this E-Corp building, which was like their backup recovery operation, trying to reinstate all of the data and their financial records and everything else that they took away in 9/5. They go to that location. Irving goes to that location. Tyrell's there. He's like, holding the bullet wound, all that kind of thing. I didn't read into this scene that particularly much. This scene, it was kind of like, there was a little bit of humour because like Tyrell's holding the wound. And he's like, yes, I'd stop pressing down on that. Wound.
This was mostly plot cleanup. Going, okay, we need to get moving on from this.
Well, it also gave us an idea of like what this guy does. Like, what is he doing?
Yeah,
he's someone who deals with it. He's almost like. It's not until later on that it kind of confirmed more properly that he works for White Rose, but at least at this point, whoever this guy is, whoever he's working for, he is kind of like the Mike from Breaking Bad of this show. He comes in and fixes things and deals with these kind of issues.
It's not as cool as Mike, though. No one's as cool as Mike.
He's not as cool as Mike, no. You never see Mike go up and argue about a milkshake getting punched. He wouldn't care about the milkshake.
I don't know. Mike's the sort of man as well, though, that'd be like, no, it's about the principle.
I feel like he'd be handed the loyalty card and he'd just throw it out. He'd be annoyed at the clerk.
True.
So I don't want all that sugar at my age. What are you doing? Go away.
Yeah.
Although the one thing I did note down is when he goes back outside to his car, you see him like his cover seems to be that he's a used car salesman. That seems to be his day job kind of thing. But I noticed that the direction here, and the episode is directed by Sam Esmail. It's kind of this. It goes from close-ups to this top-down view of him getting into this car, and then it's a convertible. So that the shot's still top-down, and we see the the roof of the car go back. And I thought just thematically here, it was kind of like, okay, so if again knowing later on that he is working for White Rose, just the idea that this is kind of, we're finally got under the surface of the White Rose operation, because up until now she's been such a mystery, and everything she's been doing is like, this is the first time we've ever even met this character, this operative that works for her. We've never seen him before, so just symbolically we're top down looking down at this car and we see that the cover has been lifted, and we're
do you know what else it felt like to me, because this is right at the start of the show, the start of the season here. It felt like, no, this is the curtain coming down, sort of thing. This is it. We're opening up for the season now.
Yeah. So we go to an E-Corp nuclear power plant.
Yes, and this is where my mind started going crazy already.
Of course. They mentioned the blackout. They mentioned, this is why you have backup generators at a power plant, because things could go bad. And the guy, he's giving this kind of tour to these people who works there, and he starts talking about parallel universes and like the mysteries of the unknown. And the one sentence in particular that I thought was very interesting in terms of connecting it to the themes of the show is he's like, how many copies of there are, and he says, how many of our mental states can be co-joined
Yes.
for better or worse.
Yeah, that
And
felt very interesting because obviously we talked about the duality of White Rose and obviously
the duality of Elliot.
Mr. Robot,
Yeah.
and it's like, assuming that the potential of it to be literal, is Mr. Robot just like an alternate world version of Elliot?
More on that later.
Yeah.
I'll get more on that later.
The other line of his speech here that really stuck out, not so much in the parallel world stuff, but just as a big thematic thing with this show, is that he says, "Do we see reality as it is?"
Oh, of
And
course,
obviously,
yeah. That's been a big
we
thing.
see everything filtered through Elliot.
Which, by the way, that was the other thing about this, because, this is season 3. Season 1, the whole thing was, oh, Mr. Robot's not really there, it's in his head. That was the big sort of twist. Season 2, oh, he's not actually here, he's in a prison. So, I was like, oh, what's the thing this year? I'm like, I'm watching with the eagle eye, I'm like, okay, something's not what it seems.
I think that's kind of the trick, though. Where
Yeah. So
you're expecting it now, so you're looking for it, and it's not actually there.
Exactly. It's almost more surprising this season if he doesn't have that. If we don't have that thing. But fine either way. But I was definitely looking for clues.
Yeah, definitely.
What's going on here? So that we actually transitioned to presumably another place in the same building. And White Rose again in sort of male businessman form with one of his higher up, right hand man or whatever.
Henchman.
Yeah, there you go, that's a good word. What's that first thing I've written down here? Oh, low synth. There was some low synth music playing here that I really liked. That's what I wrote down. I was like, what the hell did I write?
This episode.
There's a lot of good music in this, you're right. So they're talking about Elliot because they've got some footage of Elliot. So, oh, that Alder's saying he's such a riot. Oh, hard to control. And the henchman's like, he's a bit of a liability. I could just complete phase 2. And this is, this conversation gets very interesting. He talks about, how Elliot's rage, that's how he kind of ends it, but he talks about his rage and his drive to take down E-Corps actually what allowed them to bring this plan that they're doing back online. Like before, it seemed, it was defunct, it was dormant, but their plan's going ahead now because of what Elliot did. And then the other big things he mentions here that's very, very interesting is like, isn't it, a coincidence that Elliot's father unknowingly was also working on the same thing years ago, mentions that he died for that, and that when Elliot's done, he can die too, like his father. And this is where we're going back to this whole idea of conjoined things, right? Now let's say whatever they're doing, that this thing, because obviously the camera pans out in a second, and we get the title, and it's this big machine, kind of almost Hadron Collider-esque thing.
The two things I wrote down as possibilities were Hadron Collider or a quantum supercomputer.
Yeah, I said that. Now, so his father was working on something, right? He didn't know it was to do with this. He didn't know what the goal was. And I would argue here that whoever's paying for this also doesn't know, because I think we've seen the E-Corps involved in this, but and it's in the E-Corps building, seemingly. I don't think E-Corp are actually aware that the real plan is to do with all this, timelines.
No, I don't think they have a clue.
Shenanigans. I think to them it's been sold as, oh, this will help us be powerful, and that's about it.
Pretty much.
I don't feel like they actually know the villains in it. The E-Corp are just pawns for White Rose at this point, really.
They are, which I think says a lot about the Messengers show, because obviously the whole thing is about giant corporations and stuff, but ultimately it's kind of potentially boiling down to, no, the corporations aren't really the problem. It's the people running them. It's the man behind the corporation.
Yeah, it's people themselves, and I think that's yeah. But so going back to this whole co-joined reality, I was like, if he died in relation to what he was doing back then, because obviously since the start of the show, since we had the realization that Mr. Robot's just in Elliot's head, and it's based on his father, it looks like his father, and it has that kind of vibe. Like, we have just always kind of went along with the idea, oh, this is his, he's mentally unstable, this is his mind that's doing this, and it's based on his father because his father means something to him. But is there a small possibility that the reason why it's his father is because it's not actually just this complete figment of someone else? It's actually, it's there, the connection is there because he was working on this all these years ago.
Something that I think lends potentially a little bit of credence to that is later on when they're referring to Elliot and this split personality. They don't call it a split personality. They don't call it an alter ego or anything like that, or a mentally unstable. They say unique condition.
Yes, unique condition. Yes, very. And I don't necessarily think that this is actually his father per se. I mean, maybe it's his father from an alternate world, if we're going with those crazy ideas.
It could be, though, is the point.
But I don't think it's like necessarily his father direct. I mean, maybe it is. I mean, I don't like who knows at this point. But
I love that this is now we can actually speculate about this.
yeah, I think the reason why I would go with alternate father is maybe because the whole idea if it's conjoining between realities. That,
yeah, that's where I'd be more inclined to go as well.
Yeah, it'd make more sense. Like, what if like he got joined his own version, like his own doppelganger from this other world, and but then he get killed, but the doppelganger kind of lingered because that wasn't really him that died, which actually ties into something. When Elliot's like going back to the location and he looks at the where he gets shot, he says he mentions in that scene, "Where's Mr. Robot? Like I've not we've not seen him all episode." He's like, where is he? I don't feel his presence, and he even ponders. Like, did that gunshot kill him, but not me? And it's just thinking of that. Like, was this doppelganger of his father over here with him connected in some way, but he got killed or died? I say killed, but
this is where the problem comes. There's almost too much saying, this could be it, and it reminds me of the first season where we were like, oh no, it's too easy that Mr. Robot and Elliot are the same person, which is what we were kind of saying back then. It's like this is too easy. It's too obvious, and then they went, yeah, you're right, it was too obvious. So here's something else as well, not instead. So if that's the case here, if they go, yeah, this kind of is too obvious, what's the twist on it that makes us go, oh, we didn't see that coming?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. Yeah, there was more to that in season one because with Darlene being the sister, like that was a whole side to it that we never seen coming.
Right, it's completely hidden.
So on those lines, yeah, I'm sure there's more to it if we're on the right lines.
Yeah, it feels like he gives us enough to go, hey, you feel like you're onto this. You're looking at it and going, yeah, we see this, and then it comes out with, no, but you didn't see this.
Yeah, do we have any real way of predicting what that is?
No, I don't think we do. I think that's the whole thing. It's like this is a complete distraction that we're going to focus on, and then something else will come out from nowhere.
But I think you're talking about how it's almost too much. There's too many things it could be. And that kind of fits into the theme of the show. Like, if you remember last season, White Rose, I think, talking to Angela, and towards the end of the season when they had that meeting in the fish tank room, talked about how each door, like behind every door, is infinite possibilities until you open that door. It almost ties into that theme of like, yeah, it could be all these things. Like, I think it's intentionally open to all these interpretations because the whole idea is that it is infinite in terms of possibilities.
I think that you've kind of hit on what the less sci-fi potential of White Rose's plan is. Say it is some sort of quantum supercomputer, it would be to see what are the potential outcomes. Like, it could calculate potential outcomes for any scenario so that they're always ahead.
Yeah. I think that's the non-sci-fi version where he phrases it like this. He talks about alternate timelines, and he's trying to sort of, in the same way that he kind of lives them out by living as two people, he's going to use this machine to see what all the other possibilities are so that he can make the correct choices. But then, does it go more insane like that? Because we'll get to that when we talk about what Angela's saying. Yeah,
but like the idea that he could see every timeline going forward, so he can choose which timeline to live in.
Yes. Alright, so where were we? Yes, White Rose, camera comes out, we see the big machine. Was there anything else in that scene that I wanted to mention?
I just mentioned here that it's a beautiful edit into the eye as it pulls out of this machine. It comes out, and then suddenly we're in an eye.
Oh, it's great. It's Elliot's eye, who wakes up in Angela's house, and he's he immediately comes in with the narration, with the thought process, and he's talking about. Basically, that maybe it wasn't real. Maybe that everything that he experienced at the end of the final episode wasn't real. And does that make him powerful because he stopped it, because he didn't do all this stuff? But then Angela immediately mentions that Tyrell contacted her and brings all this stuff up, and he immediately goes to, oh, it was real. And then I've just wrote down, because I've wrote down he felt powerful for a second, and then all of a sudden he felt powerless, like it was all gone again immediately.
Yeah.
Again, the idea of an illusion. Just for a second, he convinced himself, maybe I'm powerful, because I thought that was real.
Yeah, no, you're right. I loved the music in this scene specifically. It
Hmm.
was doing a whole like clock ticking thing constantly from the moment Elliot wakes up to the end of this scene. It is ticking dead on, like every second.
I don't want to go into why right now, but honest, because I watched this once without notes, and then the second time I took notes. On a second viewing, especially, Angela making sure he did not contact the police, and the way she was kind of like, guiding him in a certain direction was definitely a bit more noticeable and telling.
I do think it's interesting that she says to Elliot like that she was on her way to turn herself in, and then when they showed up with him, like so, it's this idea that she's twisting the truth a little bit because we kind of know that's not really the case even then.
Oh yeah, she's missing it because she actually was on her way to turn herself in when White Rose got to her in the first place.
Yeah,
So I don't like. Yeah, she's kind of she's manipulating what she's saying a little bit.
she's bending the timeline a little.
Very good. But yeah, so we'll get more to that later though, because there's a lot more with Angela later that gets into that stuff. So Elliot goes to. I've actually written down goes to S2 finale because I didn't know what the building was called or anything like that.
Yeah,
I like to know it by location.
I just went to shooting room.
What I did like about this scene though, because he walks in and he's got his phone out with a light, with to light his way, and there's this great shot from way far back, and it's just panning across as he's walking at the opposite end of this really long room, and it's just completely dark, and you just see like the sort of the blue cold light of his phone lighting his way, and it was just a really atmospheric shot. And as I mentioned, he came up, he like checked where he was, and he speculated, where is that's the one thing I've written down for this scene is where is Mr. Robot? Why is he not here? He's notable by his absence. So, but then he goes back to his apartment. He notices a car outside, a black car. Two people.
Very, very obvious, isn't it?
Yeah, two people clearly watching. But it's actually Darlene who's in his apartment.
Yeah.
Which was immediately kind of like, wait a minute, the FBI had her. Why is she here?
Yeah.
Suspicious.
And he is immediately suspicious when she mentions that she was with the FBI. He jumps to what did you tell them?
Well, interestingly, I didn't really necessarily read that as suspicion, more so just his thought process, because she even gives him shit for it, because she just mentioned, oh yeah, I was with Cisco when he got shot. This was,
Yeah.
I've had a horrific experience. I'm nearly crying here, and he's just like, what did you tell them?
Yeah.
What did you tell them?
I think it just shows his focus, doesn't it?
Yeah. I don't think he's necessarily suspicious at this point. It's just the way he thinks. But then I was getting suspicious though, because immediately she starts asking questions, and then she phrases it in such a way where it sounds kind of natural, but it's like, well, Elliot, what's stage 2? Wait, I heard you talk about stage 2. It's like, okay, right, I'll take this one. But I was looking, because I knew she was at the FBI, and it seemed really unrealistic that they would just let her out like this. Even though, she said, yeah, they questioned me, but they had her detained. They had her in a room with the big pin board with all the strings.
Yeah, we know that they were watching her, and we know, we saw all this.
Yeah, so I'm very suspicious of this. And so she asked that. She's like, she finds out about destroying the building, and she is like, oh, you knew I'd go back against this. I wouldn't be okay with this. And then he screams out, it wasn't me. He shouts that out, like, making it clear it's him. It's Mr. Robot.
Yeah, it's such a great moment where he kind of loses it, and it's like that first moment where he's like that, kind of accepting that it's not everything that he does is him. Like, even though he's known for ages, and it kind of gets brought up here and there, but this really felt like accepting it.
Yeah. And I just, so basically he wants to try and shut the back door that Angela put in the building last season. Remember that fantastic one-er following her through the,
so good.
She did a little sting or a little heist operation. It's not really a heist because she's not stealing something. But
yeah,
but
it played heist music.
Yeah,
so it was
it's a heist scene. Yes. But she's like, oh, I know a place where we can get internet, because the internet's down because the power's out. But I know a place where we can go. But you can't go in like that, because he's got a shirt on that Angela gave him, which I think was her ex-boyfriend's, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But you can't go like that. So we get the hero profile shot as he suits up and he puts the hood on. It's like, oh, that's his costume.
It's amazing when it just makes such a moment out of him pulling that hood up.
Yeah, especially because I mean he had a hood last season, but because he was, last season he wasn't out in the street a lot because he was in the prison for a lot of the season, Whereas this felt like right away, no, this is back to Elliot being this focus,
Do you know what? It really feels like there's going to be a moment at some point in the show where it does the reverse. That same shot, but him taking the hood down. Because the hood is kind of this protection for him. He hides, he blends
Yeah,
in,
he's
he doesn't
covering
get
up.
seen.
Yeah,
And it feels like there's a moment where he's going to take it down and step out.
where he's going to choose to be exposed and vulnerable. He's going to make that
Yeah,
choice.
like he kind of has to make the hero's choice at some point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So to set up, I just noted down that as they're walking to this location, which turns out to be like this hacker's den bar place where they've got their own like generators and fiber wire and all that. But I just want to point out that the streets were in chaos. So this blackout, this everything that's happened is like everywhere seems to be in just a wreck. Did you notice the name of this place that they go to?
I didn't catch the name, no.
1984,
Very good.
and there was a big eye above it.
Very good.
So
Hackers have such a sense of irony, don't they?
Yeah, but that's the thing. We know where they're being watched. We've seen the car, and when they come in here, one of my favourite moments is like noticing these two Asian dudes who, presumably are the Dark Army, and Darlene certainly thinks so because she looks scared.
She panics immediately.
Yeah, I love that the entrance to this place, it's all one shot. We follow them, like the camera looks down like, below the walkway that they're walking on, then it follows them down the stairs. Like it's a nice long take. And then eventually, like, so they're basically there's no computers free because it's like the Hacker Olympics, as Elliot puts it.
They're playing capture the flag.
Yeah, but with hacking.
Yes,
And
it sounds amazing.
and he's like, well, I could just win it for them. Like, I love that sentence comes out of his mouth. No, I know I've skipped a thing. I know. I can see, look at your notes going, you've skipped that big moment. I want to talk about it.
I actually had something else other than that I was going to mention as well.
But I'm just keeping it flowing here. And he's like, I can just win it for them. I love that sentence comes out of his mouth. It's so
good, isn't it?
It sounds so arrogant, but from him it doesn't sound arrogant though. Like on paper, it's an arrogant as hell sentence, but from him it's like he's right.
It's just a statement.
Yeah, it's fact. He would, and he does.
Yeah.
So,
but no, I love that when he comes in, he's disgusted by the idea that all these people are suffering. They've got no food, no internet, no electricity. They're all struggling up there. And these are down here, having a party. They've got it's a full club. They've got music on. They're celebrating.
yeah, it's actually more humanity than he's had in a while. I feel like it's almost like him rebooting, as it were. By getting shot and waking back up. It's almost like he's restored a little bit of his humanity. I mean, the episode's called Power Save Mode, and the episode talks a lot about how people go into, like the blackout itself is the city's Power Save Mode.
Yeah.
And then we talk about other characters later. I think that's interesting. And it's as he's walking around, he's narrating, he's like, oh man, there's so much noise. Sometimes you just wish life had a mute button. And then, I almost went for my remote thinking the TV went on mute because this big mute symbol appears and the sound cuts out. And then he still talks and he goes like, there, isn't that better? But then notably, when Darlene comes back up, he hears her, even though the mute button's still on, she breaks through the mute. She overrides it.
Yeah, and then he just hears like a faint noise at first, and then you can see him kind of turn it up. Because it actually does the turn up volume symbols as well.
But I just think it's interesting that, because she's close, because he cares about what she has to say, it's like, no, it worked. Like, she broke through. He knew she was talking. Like, as silly as that may sound, I think it does mean something for their relationship. So, yeah, so of course he sits down, he's doing his hacking thing, and she sees these guys, she gets very concerned, and again we go into this one long shot. Now, is this one long shot of her going to the bathroom in this place? She shuts the door behind her, she goes to the corner, she starts swearing like damn.
And it feels so claustrophobic. She's kind of almost having a panic attack.
I don't think she is having a panic attack. I think it's a very convincing panic attack, the way she's reacting. But she goes over to the mirror, she pulls out her phone, and she phones someone and says, the Dark Army's here, you need to help me. And I'm like, who's she talking to? Now, if she is working with the FBI, if they're using her as a sting, if they've got her wired...
She's a plant, yeah.
Yeah, she's a plant. Like, this is her saying, hey, Dark Army's here, you need to protect me. You swore, if she made some deal, presumably part of that was protect me from this evil army that, has been killing people left and right, including my boyfriend. So, makes sense. But then you hear the bang in the door. And this is a really scary scene. Like, I want to emphasise how well directed this little panic attack moment is, and her fear. Like, you almost feel anxiety just watching Darlene react to her surroundings. But the guys come, they bang the door, so of course they go back to Elliot. And Elliot actually, I think it's interesting. He actually is in the process of doing his thing, and he actually says, "That's me. I've shut the back door. I just have to uninstall." And then the guy unplugs the computer. So he shut the back door, but the fact that he also said, "I just have to uninstall," implies that there's something else there that he had to do. Now, whether that's something that could open the back door up again, like, is it still kind of there? It's just turned off.
Like it's shut but not locked.
Yeah, like it could be reopened. Like he's not completely eradicated it. That's how I'd interpret that. But at the very least, there's something still in there that he didn't quite do.
Yeah, that's possible. The other one of is that when she walks up and she starts saying, "Hey, Elliot," and he's like, "Yeah, well," he doesn't even notice. He's so caught up in what he's doing, he doesn't realize that she's so distressed and that these people are with her.
Yeah, because as she's going away, he mentions, "Oh, you're having a panic attack." So they're here for me. If they want anyone dead, it'll be me. You don't worry. Like he kind of like he does notice it at first, but yeah, when she comes back, he doesn't even pay it. He's so locked because he's in. He's doing his superpower. He's hacking. That's what.
Yeah, he's in the zone.
That's his thing. So they get taken outside, and they just tell him to go down this alleyway. They go to this alley, and he and Elliot's all for it. He's like, "Yeah, I want to go. I want to talk to White Rose and stuff. I want to get this sorted out. I need to stop this." And of course, you notice Darlene's eyes looking over to the car, the FBI car. Which again, at this point, we're still not confirmed that it is FBI, but I'm making assumptions at this point.
It's the only logical thing for it to be, I think. Yeah.
And we get it confirmed quite well because as soon as they go into the alleyway, but the point being, of course, is that she seems to know that it's there and she knows what it is. She's making sure her protection's close by. That's certainly what it feels like to me. But they go into the alleyway and Irving's there in a taxi cab, and he's like, "Hey, that car up there, that's FBI. We should get going, get in." And like, sure enough, they get in, and. The one point, obviously, he does this whole thing where he gets Darlene to use the license plate, look up the other numbers, and he pretends to be a police officer to get the automatic sort of stuff in their car to slow it down. Like, he basically does a lot of technology stuff and police. The one thing, interesting thing I did point down here though, or at least the moment I love that just ties into Elliot's condition, is he says to Elliot, "Tell her, look back and tell her what the license number is." And he just says it. He knows it already.
He's already clocked it on the way in.
Yeah.
As much as he seems to be in the zone and so focused, he is really quite aware of everything.
Yeah, it's always been his thing. Like, he's always been good with numbers and catching these details. It's just I love that moment, and then his surprise that he already knew it.
I'm glad you're into that. That was the moment I was going to bring up as well. That's the one that kind of stuck out.
Yeah, I mean the rest of it's fun. It's like fun little plot stuff with him, how he deals with this, and how he gets the car to stop following them. But
some great music in that chase as it's ramping up.
So they go back to the Red Wheelbarrow barbecue, and Elliot even notices, "Wait a minute, this is the menu I had. Like, did they get this from me, or did I get it from them? Like, is this a front for White Rose? What's going on?" Kind of thing. Irving wants to talk to Elliot. He basically he asked Darlene to go get her food, and she tells him to piss off. But he steals his punch card. She walks away with it. Doesn't give him it back.
I know. He's going to be good.
Chaos. What about that milkshake? But yeah, so this conversation gets, obviously interesting. I've noted down that Elliot basically flexes his power. He's like, "No, we're calling this off. I don't want this to happen. This blowing up this building. I don't want to do it." And I've shut the back door. And he's in question of he mentions working for her, so you get quite clearly here. Okay, so he's definitely sort of White Rose related, unless we're going to have a new character show up.
It doesn't, because he says our employer will be disrespected or disappointed, and it's like he knows that they're both aware of this.
But he says White Rose believes that an idea, a plan, lives or dies by its creator, and will respect that he's made the choice not to do it. So fair enough, we're done.
I thought that was really interesting, and I'm wondering, how much does White Rose know about Elliot's duality? Because he's not the creator of the plan. Mr. Robot is.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know for certain that White Rose has any idea about this. But given that she's got Angela, she's had that conversation, it's like, maybe she does.
I mean, Irvin definitely doesn't know because of comments he makes later. But White Rose, I feel like... I'm more inclined to think she does, but...
I think it's a strong possibility. I'm not saying it's definitive, or, I wouldn't put money on it, but I think it's possible.
So, yeah. That said, he pushes it a little bit too far. Elliot demands, "I want confirmation from her," and he's like, "Hey, that bullet we took out, we can put it back in. Look, you won this. I just gave you the win. Go home.
Yeah.
Enjoy the night. Like, we're done."
Let's say he goes, you won. Go home before you end up losing again.
Yeah, and here's the thing. As he says before you end up losing again, he looks over to Darlene, which partly feels like a threat. It's like, here's someone you care about here. But
Yeah.
also, here's the thing I really noticed in this scene, though, is when he says that and he looks over to Darlene, we get a shot of her. She's in this corner that is not lit by nothing but the red light outside. It's very dark and evil looking. It's very red. And it's almost like she is not to be trusted. She's in the red.
Is it a threat or is it a warning?
Exactly. But she's like just bathed in red. And I thought that lighting was very, very, specific. It was chosen for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, we talk so often about the direction of the show, and we've like named multiple moments from this episode already. It's just immaculately shot.
Oh, I've got more to come, don't you worry.
Yeah, obviously.
I've got more to come.
I'm just saying, like, every episode has handfuls of these moments.
Now, Darlene comes back over to the table, and this is where I if you weren't suspicious of her already with the questions, because most of the ones earlier on you could have wrote off as like, she would actually want to know this stuff. She was genuinely interested, but this is where it felt like proper suspicious, because she started saying, "I know more than you think I do, Elliot. I know about Tyrell. Was he involved in this from the start?" That question specifically felt like that's a detail the FBI want. That detail is something they care about.
Yeah.
And I felt super suspicious at this point. And she gets pissed off at him, because he, gives her kind of... He says no, but then because he's not wanting to open up, and because he tries to talk her down, like, we both know what happened to, Cisco already, she gets pissed off and leaves. And that's kind of, the end of this scene. And this is where we get him walking through the streets, and it's more narration. And it's funny...
Do you know what? You say narration. Some of it's not narration, though. Some of it he just says...
Stop jumping ahead. I was literally just going to make that point.
Well...
It starts off in narration. It starts that way. Right?
It does. It jumps back and forth.
Right? It starts off that way. And what I thought was interesting is this is the second time this episode it's played with sound in the way he narrates, like the mute button thing in Zoning Out Society. And then here, he starts off in narration, but it's actually... as he gets real is actually what I've written down. It's as he starts to admit maybe what's going on here, admitting these faults, is that's when it becomes real dialogue in the scene. He's actually saying it in the scene. Now, no one's reacting as if they're hearing him, so I don't actually think he's literally saying it out loud.
No, this is just a soliloquy.
Yeah, in fact, the whole thing's in his head actually, because at the end of the scene he wakes up in the restaurant again. He's still there, but yeah, it starts off narration is normal, and then it switches to him talking in the scene, but it does it as he starts to admit things, and I think that's a very important thing. As I've written down, he's getting real. He's kind of getting more honest about what he's saying.
This whole thing almost becomes a musical number. Like, the way the music comes in, he speaks. It's all in time. It's like it was other than he's speaking and not singing. Everything about it plays like a musical.
Sure.
I just thought it was really effective.
I hate musicals, so I would never notice that.
It was something that was, a little bit of a different format thing that we saw last season. Like we had the sitcom, that was obviously the big example.
Yes.
But things like that, just playing with these other formats and sneaking them in.
Yeah. So he starts talking about the way things are. He starts talking about 5'9", and he starts to question: did 5'9" actually make things better, or did it just make things more unstable and give the powerful more power? It made people more vulnerable to be exploited. That's kind of the theme of what this is. And he's like, what did this do? Like, where could this go? And of course, as soon as he says, what could this reap? Like, how far could this go? The darkness that I've started. And that's when it cuts to footage of Trump as president.
Yeah, this is what I thought was really interesting. So it takes shots at Trump and May, but I got a little bit confused because of the time period. Because obviously this hasn't advanced time-wise from where we were.
Oh no, it's picked up straight away, yeah.
So I thought it was very interesting that they made that choice to show, no, this is present day that we're talking about, even though Elliot isn't.
Oh yeah, I don't think this is not present day for the show at all. This is just where could this lead? This is what it could
Yeah.
lead to, and because we're in the future, this is what it has led to.
Yeah.
It's that simple. I don't think it's that he doesn't know that Trump's going to be president. It's not that
No,
Elliot
no.
knows that. It's just cutting to an example of this is where it could lead to.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting.
But other key things here, though, is he talks about how he tried to hide after they did the 9/5 hack, and he talks about accountability, and it kind of gets to the idea that, yeah, I could blame the corporations, I could blame E Corp, I could blame all these things. You know, he brings up the guy who invented capitalism. He's like, I could blame all these things, but that would kind of be a lie, that I'm to blame for this. And it's kind of acknowledging that society as a whole is kind of culpable, because he says, you know, F society, I did F society, and look where it's got us. It didn't actually fix it. It just made us more.
Yeah.
It's made us more susceptible to everything.
And it is F society, F me, like because
Yeah.
he knows he's done this. The line that really stuck out to me that I wrote down specifically was, "I didn't start a revolution. I just made us docile enough for our slaughter."
Yeah. So it's kind of, and obviously there's a meta commentary here, there's a political commentary here. It's kind of about accepting that you're part of the society you're in. You have to work with it to try and improve it, and not just, you know, either annihilate it like he did, essentially.
It's can working outside of the system just make things worse?
Yeah. Changing the system is really what the goal, what you should be doing. Obliterating it to nothing is kind of, he's realizing his own mistakes and his own kind of extreme views and bias of kind of, I mean, maybe not to the point where he understands what he did completely and, you know, why everything was wrong, but he's accepting here that maybe my convictions and what I put in place weren't the correct path, because now we're just look around as like chaos on the streets, blackout, like, which may not necessarily entirely be his fault. I'm willing to think that maybe this big machine they're building over the power plant may have something to do with it, but then again, even White Rose said it was what Elliot did with this plan that allowed them to get kickstarted again on doing this.
Right. So in a way, at least indirectly, this is all his fault.
Yeah. So I've just society let it happen, not just one person or company or one villain. So it's kind of him, and it ends on a literal wall of guilt. It's like a wall of missing posters and like deceased posters, and we see characters who have died. We see, you know, Sheila from season 1. We see Gideon. We see Cisco, all on this wall, and it's like this is blood on his hands. And I kind of like this idea because the show's been such a dark and kind of cynical experience up until this point. There is actually kind of a brief glimpse of hope here that this is kind of a redemption story for him, and like.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, at least on a personal level, like him, like I can honestly see the end of this show being his death, but before he dies, he manages to do something that leads things in the right direction. That he makes a positive influence on something.
No, I can see it. That would work nicely.
Yeah, because you know everything before it was filtered by, you know, wanting of revenge, you know, hatred of, you know, because his dad got killed and everything else, and you know the society around him, like everything was filtered.
It's all kind of been from a place of hate, hasn't it?
Yeah, of negativity, if not outright hate.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I did love that shot of the, you know, in the wall of all the posters, and it cuts back and you get the incredible wide shot, and you just see just how big this wall is, just how many people have died for this.
yeah, we see the 3 or 4 that he knows personally, but like there's so many more that this has happened to as a result. So, really, really good stuff. And then he wakes up still in the old red wheelbarrow. So, I've another page done. Fantastic. So, that's where, relatively speaking, the boring part of the episode finishes. Relatively.
Yes. Yeah. How amazing is it? We I don't know how long we've gone now, but that was the boring part.
Yeah, we had some tech issues. We had to stop and start a couple of times, so we have no idea what the runtime is. But, first half, great. The second half did all the stuff that I'm really excited about.
Yep.
So, he goes back to Angela's, and he wanting to, because basically, like we say, this was the start of maybe a path of redemption. He wants to fix what he's done in some way, and he goes back to Angela, and he asks her to get him a job at E Corp. You know, they must be doing something to build their system back up, to, you know, recalibrate, get everything up and running. Like, get me a job. I want to fix what I've done. What that means exactly, I'm not sure. Like, what actually would his plan be? What would he do once he's in there? I expect it's not just to help with what they're doing, but actually do something, again, kind of behind the surface that will...
I imagine maybe buff up the security a bit, you know, so to make it harder for the Dark Army to try again to get in.
Oh, yeah, maybe actually actively fight the Dark Army. Yeah, but I feel like Yeah, he's asking for a job, but I don't think he just wants to do that job. I feel like he's still going to be doing sneaky things. It'll just be for another reason.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
He just wants the access.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, wants to fix things. And then we get this really great emotional scene where he steps into Angela and says, and by the way, this is really a warmly lit scene. It's all candlelit, because again, the power's still out. It's all candlelit. And I really want to point out here that the other scene before this that was also very heavily candlelit, like this, was the first scene with Darlene at his apartment. And I thought that was an interesting little connection, because in a way, if Darlene, we didn't confirm it in this episode, but it seems like she might be working with the FBI, she's untrustworthy. And as we find out in a second with Angela, she also, to an extent, at least with Elliot's personality, is untrustworthy. And I think that's an interesting connection, that they're both lit in a very similar way.
Something I found really interesting here is their costuming. Elliot's all in black, but Angela's all in white. And usually white represents, good, purity. But here, it's the one, Elliot's the one that we trust, even though we know he's unreliable. He's still our window to this world.
Because he's unreliable, but it's not through his own fault, whereas if she's unreliable here, it's through her own choice.
Yeah, I think it's something that shows just, that they're kind of on opposite sides, because they're polar opposites here. And also the idea that Angela, she believes herself to be honest. I mean, we get a scene a little bit later where she talks about how she can, lie about all this. And it's like she kind of tricks her own mind into it.
Yeah, so he leans in and says, I need you to keep an eye on me. Let me know if I'm ever him, kind of thing. And she asks, why do you think I can tell? And I just noted down next to that, because this was on my second review, I said, he's right, she can tell. And he says, you're the only person I can trust, which again is a bit of a sting when, we find out that she is being kind of dishonest here. She is, and we'll get into that in a second. But I noted down the lighting thing. Also, soft music. This was kind of the love theme between them. This soft music that was playing, because we've heard it before. But it's a really nice little piece. So there's a little interesting thing here is that he goes in for a kiss, and we'd seen them kiss before. But before she was going to turn herself in, they kissed on the train, and they kissed, and she pulls away, and she sort of says, "Oh, that kiss we had before, that was a mistake. We shouldn't do that." And she looks away from him. And I thought that was very interesting, especially on a second viewing, because I'm like, to me, that wasn't so much that she doesn't think they should be a couple. This was guilt. This was...
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
At first I was like, okay, what's the end game here? It's one of them's being manipulative. And then I thought, well, it's not Elliot, because he tells us that it hurts, this denial, this rejection. It hurts. So and we have no reason to doubt him. He's always told us the truth.
Yeah, and whenever Elliot talks about Angela, it's always his most human. It's where you really feel the most sympathy for him, because it feels like a genuine kind of love. But she looks away from him and she's like, this is a mistake, we can't do this. And really, again, on a second view, I'm like, no, this is just pure guilt. She knows what she's doing in this scene, and she doesn't want to pollute it with, spoiling an actual romantic moment with having it connected to this memory of doing this sort of betrayal or this, manipulation. Manipulation is a word I wrote down a lot, actually, for a lot of this stuff. But yeah, so... But then this is where theory starts spiraling out of control, because she starts saying to Elliot, and again, we know she spoke to White Rose, and we soon find out she is kind of working, and we should have maybe guessed this, because remember we had that scene at the end of the finale where she went to her lawyer and said, never contact me again, kind of thing. Like, she'd obviously changed. I think we called her Dark Angela, because she seemed so intimidating at that point. But she leans in and says to Elliot, what if we could make it like this never happened? None of this ever happened. And he's like, what, 5'9"? He's like, no, including what happened to her parents, to go all the way back to the beginning. So, we've been talking about time travel. We're like, okay, Angela's drinking the Kool-Aid. She's on our side here.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's not possible. And she says, what if I told you it is? But then she backs away. And again, I wrote down guilt. Like, she realizes she's getting close again, and she backs away out of fear.
And we get the little bit from Elliot where she says that she doesn't love the people who love her. She kind of it's her power saving mode. To go back to the episode title, it's a defense mechanism.
Yeah, and I think what was interesting here is when the thing that made me write that down is that it looked like she almost wanted to tell him. So she says, "What if I told you it is?" And she almost says something else, and then she backs away and says, and that's when she sort of like
Yeah.
stops it. And I was like, this is guilt. She wants to tell him because she feels guilty. She wants to give him the same hope that she has. The same reason she's working for White Rose. She wants to tell him, especially since she has this bond, this bond that almost no people on Earth have. Both their parents were killed by the same people for the same bad reason. And it's almost like she wants to open up and say, no, this is why I'm doing this, because I've been promised these things, because I've been showing the hope that we can have this. And I want to share that with you because we've shared this our entire lives, but she can't, and she feels guilty about that.
Right, and it's this whole thing where if she can share it and it convinces him, they can work on this together. She doesn't have to be betraying him. She can bring him in and they can be open with each other again.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating.
It's great
this
stuff.
whole relationship
It's funny 'cause
took a completely different turn, hasn't it?
The first 4 or 5 episodes last season with Angela, we weren't really sure what her point of this, or her story was. What was the point of her story? And then it got into the stuff with Darlene with the heist. It's okay, her stuff's really interesting now. But then it got really fascinating at the end, and I feel like it was all building up to like this. And what happens next? So Angela wakes up. So she asks Elliot to stay over because it will make her feel safe, which is a really sweet moment, but B, we know it's kind of also a bit of manipulation. She wants him to be there for a specific reason, but at least in the moment itself it did feel really sweet.
Yeah, definitely.
And he lies down, she wakes up, and obviously because the candles aren't there when she wakes up, it goes from the really warm lighting of the candlelight to this cold moonlight when she wakes up. It's like, oh, things have changed, and she walks up into the other room. And keep in mind, we have not seen Mr. Robot all episode up until this point, and it's just this gorgeous silhouette against the moonlight of him standing, and you can tell it's him. You don't see him.
We know.
Yeah.
But you just go, that's him.
Yeah, it's him. This is they were saving for this, and I never was expecting this scene to go where it did, and it was utterly fascinating, and I am so excited by the potential of this new dynamic. So
I love just the way he, the introduction, because she walks out, she's like, Elliot? And he just says, it's me.
Yeah.
And it's like, we know. That's it.
Walk forward. And he walks forward. She's holding one candle. We've got one candle in this scene along with the moonlight. And he steps forward into the light. And I'm like, she knows.
Yeah.
She knows it's him. She can I actually wrote down, she can tell, can in all caps with an underline. She can tell.
Yeah. Mine just says, she knows.
She knows. And she's working with him because they immediately go, okay, I'll get dressed and then we can go. They've made plans. Like, they are working together. She's working with just him and not Elliot, which, that previous scene, all of that manipulation suddenly makes sense. It suddenly comes to light. Like, and she feels guilty about lying to Elliot, but she's working with Mr. Robot. She believes in what he is doing. She's working with him, which is also what White Rose is, wanting to do.
Yeah, and I think it's such an amazing flip from the first season, where she was on Elliot's side but had no idea about Mr. Robot, and Darlene was on Mr. Robot's side but had no idea. She didn't realize, but she wasn't on with Elliot.
And the funny thing is so much of what Darlene was saying in the restaurant was basically, we have to worry about us getting out safe and being okay. Darlene is now on Elliot's side and doesn't want to keep doing more hack stuff. She doesn't want to go down that path.
The roles have completely reversed to the point where Mr. Robot says, "Should we go and bring Darlene into this? I think we could use her."
Yeah.
And obviously she's like, "Yeah, maybe not."
No, we can't trust her, and we've seen that maybe they can't trust her, and he's pissed about the back door being shut, but it makes it like from a motivation point of view, it makes she has all the same motivations that Elliot does. She has the exact same motivation, so it actually makes a lot of sense that she would be on board with this ultimate path.
And one of the lines that got me here is Mr. Robot says, "As long as he exists, he will stop us." Yeah. And again, to go back into the alternate, actual alternate personalities, this is a fight for not just a fight for dominance in the mental space. This is a physical fight as well.
Yeah, and the funny thing is it still works if you want to just believe it is just in his head. Like, these two people,
of course,
think they're distinct people, and he's talking about him, even though it's technically still him. But, like, one thing in the music I really loved is when she first walks out with the candle and he steps in, it's when she first, says something that clearly implies that they're working together. There's this little synthy sting. It's like, doo-doo-doo. It's like this little mysterious sting that lets you know things are weird, that things are going on. I love that little bit of music.
How good is the music in this show?
Oh, the music's so good. I love that. Is that a sting? Because it's typically when I think of a sting, I think of a horror movie sting. Is that still classed as a sting?
No, I'd still call it as a sting, because it kind of comes in, does its point, and then goes.
Yeah. It comes in a couple of times, but every time it did, it was like, oh, I was I was shivering with the possibilities, like, because this is where I think up until now it was like, okay, we're dealing with where we ended last season. We've introduced Irvin, sure, and some ideas, but this is where no, this is what this season is. This is what the main focus of this season is going to be. This new dynamic, and it's utterly fascinating. I was so on board.
I love every part of this new dynamic.
I did.
It's just so interesting because I don't think this is where I thought it was going to go at all.
And then when they're talking, it becomes very clear this is not the first time they've spoke to each other. This is not the first time she spoke to Mr. Robot, because it's like, oh, we had these plans, we need to go, we're behind schedule, blah 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 blah. All these things, all these little things that make it clear. You never see what's in the small case, but it's pretty obvious that it's probably a sedative, because she says it's in case Elliot comes back. She's got she's got a little case, so you presume there's maybe a syringe with something to knock him out or that kind of thing in there. But then he leans in and he says, so just before the end of the scene, how do you know it's me? How do you know you're not talking to him right now? And obviously this is a neat little thing, because in the previous scene, Elliot was like, you're the only person who'll know. He trusted that she would, and she does, which is the amazing thing, which it validates the fact that they do have this connection, but it also hurts a little bit more because she's betraying him. Like, it just has that there's a neat, two things playing at the same time. There's layers to it, which is great. But she says, oh, your eyes never look at anything else. You never wander away. Whereas Elliot always tries to look off into,
That's it. Yeah,
whatever.
She says, she can tell by the eyes because you never try to look away. And it's this idea that Mr. Robot is very confident. He's very assured in his plan. And Elliot, he believes in what he's doing, but he's never been confident. Again, like even down to the hoodie, he tries to hide at every opportunity.
Yeah. And for him to... It's okay, so we talked about that scene where he was hiding from society and all this bad stuff happened. And that's kind of like a meta, political commentary on, if you just sit back and watch all the bad stuff happen, it'll just get worse. You have to actually step up and do something.
And this here to, disregard any of the actual sci-fi stuff. This is the idea that he's hiding from himself, and this is, like if you don't accept who you are, it can kind of run away and things can get self-destructive. Yeah,
it's almost an internal thing. Because he's hiding from himself, the rest of himself is just going to get worse and cause more havoc. He has to take control. So yeah, it works on multiple levels in that sense. But just to going back to the idea is that one day he'll take the hoodie down and choose to be in the opening fight. It just goes back into, again, he will take control from Mr. Robot and so on. So they go to a secret location. So open a door, Irvin's there, and they have this conversation, and I pointed out the framing of this shot. Mr. Robot's in the middle between them in the back of this sort of
just very casual, kind of leaning against the wall.
Yeah, and they two are having this debate. He's like, earlier on when we spoke, he didn't seem to know who I was, so that tells us, okay, Irvin isn't familiar with this condition.
Right, and he's noticing things aren't right. He's a smart man.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, we're behind schedule, and this is how you know it, beyond a shadow of a doubt it's White Rose, because he says, and we know how she is with time. He says that, so we know for shadow of a doubt it's White Rose.
Yeah. And Angela mentions that she's there to manage him. That's what she's essentially been hired to do.
Which to me is what implies White Rose does know about his condition.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that's why, because she's the only one on Earth who can actually take care of him in this way.
Right. I don't know if White Rose knew before that conversation with Angela, but I think she does know now.
Yeah, I wonder though, if Mr. Robot's goals are actually the same as what White Rose wants to end up with.
I don't think they are at all.
Yeah, but I wonder if do they contradict, or is it a case of with whatever they achieve that will allow White Rose to do what she wants to do? But or do we get to that point where she thinks she's almost going to have what she wants, but then Mr. Robot's going to go say, no, this is what the plan is.
I think that's actually one of the most fascinating things about Mr. Robot as a character is, I don't know what his motivations are. I don't think they're whatever White Rose has. I don't think they line up with that at all. But I don't know what they are.
So many possibilities. Behind the door.
Exactly.
To go back to that metaphor, actually, he said to Angela, and you didn't look just because there's a lock? How lazy. The idea is that this machine he's building is the lock. He's the key, more specifically. Yeah. It's the key to unlock the possibilities. Whether that is alternate realities or time travel. Although alternate reality seems to make a bit more sense. I want to talk more about that at the end, though, just to bring everything back in together. But let's get back to this scene specifically. So Tyrell's there. We open the door, Tyrell's there. And I actually laughed out loud because I went, because obviously we've seen him back at the opening scene, or opening scenes when he was there, dealing with a gunshot.
And did you think they were going to hide him away again?
Yeah, for like all season. I was like, oh god, are we going to go all season again without him? But sure enough, he's here. We see he's been living here as a bed. This has been his location, and it's almost retroactively making me accept why they hid him last season, because it's like his plot was too tied into stuff they weren't ready to reveal and talk about.
Yeah, it was frustrating at the time, but it's one of those things that in the overall narrative, I think will work.
Yes, because it seems like whatever he was doing here, it ties into more of what we're going to be talking about in season 3, and to have him around for season 2 would maybe have been forcing him unnaturally where he shouldn't have been.
Yeah, so they made the call just to go, no, we're going to keep it away.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing where, when you binge watch season 2 or you rewatch it, it won't be as big of a deal. But in the first viewing week to week, it was kind of weird. Like, are we getting Tyrell next week?
Yeah, but it's part of those. It's just expectations, isn't it? Once we go through and rewatch this, knowing we're not getting him, we probably won't have that problem.
I am the Tyrell. I was comparing it to Twin Peaks in my head. It's fine. Oh man, Elliot could have that moment though. Like, what about Mr. Robot? I am Mr. Robot.
Yeah. Did you notice they were doing some really interesting things with the framing here, with the height of Mr. Robot?
Well, we've often talked, of course, about the headroom that they always seem to have.
But his height was literally changing. At points, he was shorter than Tyrell, but at others, he was the same height or taller.
Interesting. Yeah, because basically he feels bad about shooting him, and Mr. Robot messaged with him a little bit, but ultimately it's like, no, I asked you to do that. I told you to do that.
Yeah, so you did the right thing. You stopped Elliot.
Exactly. The whole idea of Mr. Robot and Elliot being adversaries, trying to work against each other, is kind of fascinating. It's just been building to that over the whole time, but it's now that we're actually at this point where he's got people in place that are allies.
Yeah.
Is really, especially since back in season 1 it was like no one else knew he existed but Elliot. No one else seen him. Whereas now it's like they don't see Christian Slater, obviously they see Elliot, but like the idea, the idea that they know about him and they work with him instead of Elliot is really fascinating. So Mr. Robot sits down and he looks up Tyrell building, gets an IP address and stuff. We don't really quite see exactly what he's doing. I assume it's maybe this power plant with the location of the device. You'd jump to that because it also says it's in the New York area, so it makes some sense. What his plan is, who can say? But
I really don't know yet.
At least up till this point, though, it seems like it's going along with what White Rose wants, though. Because Irving's standing there, he's working for White Rose.
At least for this stage, I think the goals are aligned in getting this machine, or whatever this is, getting that running. It's what they choose to do with it that I expect them to differ. That's where he'll break away and want to do his own thing.
Yeah, I think Mr. Robot wants to hack the planet.
I think it's very similar to how we mentioned how Mr. Robot was kind of a friend to Elliot in the first season. He was, he was like helping him, going along with these things. It was tough, but he was kind of teaching him. And now they're rivals. And he was friendly while it was to his benefit. And I feel like the same's going to happen with White Rose until the goal that he wants is met. Until a certain point in time, he'll go along with it. They'll be friends, but then they're going to turn.
I think there's a bit of a difference though. I think with Elliot, it's more that eventually Elliot started to change and wanted to not do things. Whereas I feel like if Mr. Robot had his way, Elliot would have just been going along with it the whole time. But I think eventually Elliot had his breakdown. He started to revert and started to fight back, and that's why it's now a problem. Whereas I think Mr. Robot would have wanted him to just go along.
It would have been easier, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So, we cut to a train. We got a Daft Punk song playing for the next chunk of this.
I really like Daft Punk, so I was okay with this.
I like the odd song. I think this song did fit quite well, though, especially later on when she's explaining her reasons for something, and the song's just going, "Love is the reason, love is the reason." Like, the song was just screaming that in the background. Was
somewhere in this, I don't know whereabouts it is without scanning through it, but I did write down some lyrics.
Yeah. So on train, it's Mr. Robot next to Angela as they're traveling back, and there's a great moment here where he's questioning her motivations. Like, he doesn't trust her necessarily. And she brings up she's not comfortable with him. She says, "I'm not going to talk to you like I do Elliot. I don't like you. We're not friends." Yeah. Which again, it ties into the idea that she still feels this is again her guilt. She cares about Elliot. She doesn't care about Mr. Robot.
She's keeping Mr. Robot at a distance intentionally.
Yeah.
She's doing this because she has to and because she thinks it's the right thing to do for whatever is going on with White Rose. but she doesn't want to betray Elliot any more than she has to.
Exactly. And she says, it's not technically lying. You're sitting right there, and this is the only time in this scene it cuts to this wider shot, and you see Elliot sitting there instead of Mr. Robot.
Such a great shot, isn't it?
It's just a quiet little moment, then it cuts back in, and it's back to him, and that's all it is. But it's just a great little touch. But yeah, so again, we get some interesting dialogue here. She says, I'm helping him finish it. Because she talks about this was Elliot's plan to begin with. I'm helping him finish it. She thinks she's actually helping with his original intentions. And she says, I'm just pushing him along to make sure he achieves it. Isn't that what you do? Saying that to Mr. Robot. And then he kind of chuckles and says, yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah.
And it almost makes me think, is it? Or is it your own goals and intentions? Are you manipulating him? Yeah,
that's what I think. I think he's just going, yeah, you think you've got me figured out.
But that's the thing. That's if it's a separate entity. If it is just a mental probe, and it is secretly just him as well, if this is all just Elliot, this is just another facet of Elliot's brain, then arguably it is just him kind of forcing himself to do what he wants to do deep down.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those that both interpretations are actually like they're completely different, but both of them are just as valid at this point.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me because it makes me wonder, because we theorised last season about we heard about how when he was younger he had a similar breakdown where they went and found him in that same sort of museum or whatever it was, and we speculated that there was another personality, there was someone other than Mr. Robot back when he was younger.
Yeah, was this Mr. Robot entity from an alternate reality? Did he try and merge, but he hit the wrong point in the timeline? He came too early.
Well, yeah, because I think we were theorising that it was someone else, though it wasn't the same character.
Yeah, no, that was something we were thinking, but now I'm wondering, even if it was it just kind of came too early?
Yeah, but that'd be the same person, though.
Yeah, but as I'm saying, it could be the same as
well.
No,
it could be, yeah. It could, because it seems like he doesn't remember this, so it could be the same person who's tried twice. But, or was it a different person, though? Because there was hints, I can't remember what they were, but I remember we were speculating.
I remember speculating that as well. But again, is this just another alternate timeline? Is this another one trying something?
Oh yeah, if we're going down that deep end, yes, then sure.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But they keep telling us, behind these doors are infinite possibilities, but we're pigeonholed into just one here with Mr. Robot. So why couldn't there be others?
Well, sure, but that's assuming you're relating those two things together. I think that's not necessarily a fair equivalency. That the possibilities aren't necessarily related to Mr. Robot and the idea of who could be contacting Elliot. I think that's reaching for something that's not there.
Okay, that's fair.
But yes, because I think the idea that there was one before when he was younger is a very interesting idea. Was it the same Mr. Robot and he's forgotten about him? Was it someone completely different that meant something to him? Who knows? But I'm sure we're going to get more of that teased at some point or explored. The idea that this happened before. But yeah. But he's still I still don't get it. Why are you doing this? Why I don't trust you? And she says, she basically talks about getting justice, E-Corp.
Yeah, she gives a hell of a monologue.
Yeah, it's basically, she's sort of vacant. She's staring at the. She's almost Elliot-esque as she's staring at the window. She's saying all this stuff, but she talks about how justice felt impossible. Even with Elliot's plan or Mr. Robot's plan, whoever one it was when she first encountered this, she didn't think it was possible, and it wasn't until White Rose made it seem possible, she opened her eyes, as the quote. And the one line that I think is the most important here, that I think is essential, again, to go on with all these crazy theories. All of the damage they have caused can be, and this is the word, undone.
Yeah, and to follow up with that, the next line is, when we succeed, a whole new world will be born. Which is, a whole new timeline.
Yeah, undone. That is the word there that really, because if you're going with the time travel ideas, I think that's a very key word. However, I don't know if Angela necessarily has the truth of what White Rose is actually planning, and I think
agree. I think to go back to earlier when I said Susan White, I think she has the truth to herself, what she says she believes, but I don't think it's necessarily right.
I think Angela might be thinking time travel in a weird way. Or if not time travel, then somehow altering it. If this machine can, I don't know, just do something as simple as send a bit of data back to change things or whatever, right? I think Angela is thinking that, whereas let's say it's actually alternate timelines, and because this is the thing, like time travel ideas in this show have came more from the Elliot side, whereas White Rose's side has been more about alternate timelines, alternate universes.
Yeah, I think it's, White Rose kept mentioning, a place where 9/5 never happened, a world where that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I think she just wants to be able to access that world and live in that world instead. So it's not really undone. It just doesn't matter to her anymore.
Yeah, but I don't think I don't know if she knows that though. I don't know if she understands that she's just, if all goes to plan, if this is what she believes is going to happen, like, does she just think she's going to be carted off to another alternate universe, or does she think our world will be changed? Like,
I think she thinks our world will be changed. But I think White Rose is more likely to just go, no, we're off to this one. This is our home now.
But again,
or at least
even saying that sentence though, that implies that this is literal and that they're actually going to send people to an alternate
No,
world.
it does, yeah.
And I don't think that's necessarily true.
It's not necessarily true.
Which is why I think Angela is being sold a line. I don't know if she's been sold the exact truth.
And that's it. Are we being sold a line? Are we getting, we're hearing all this time travel and alternate reality stuff. Are we being sold that line? But that's not the truth at all.
Possibly.
I just don't know. I don't trust anything in this show. The more I watch it, the more I remember not to trust things.
Yeah, don't trust what they say outright. But the funny thing is, though, is what works about this scene, though, is the acting, of course, and the personal motivations in it, what they're actually saying to each other, her motivations about believing that she can finally actually achieve some kind of justice, whether that's undoing things, what she said to Elliot about going back to the beginning and changing everything. It's definitely hinting at some sort of time travel or timeline thing, but does she believe that literally, or does Angela just know more than we do, and what she's saying makes sense to her?
Yeah, and this is the thing, we can't know for sure yet. We have no way of knowing what she knows, because they were very, very cagey with what they showed us in that conversation last season.
Can I just say? No, but it ends with the power coming back on. Almost like the city itself is coming out of power save mode.
That's what that note says. I was staring at it going, what does that say?
The power comes back on.
It just says power back, but it doesn't. My writing took a hit on that.
Yeah, and I kind of like the idea that the power comes back on, and she makes this sort of like statement that they can maybe do something. It's almost like, okay, things were screwed, but power's been reset. There's hope that we can fix this. It's like turning a computer back off and on again. Yeah. Okay, right.
There's literally light in the world again.
Yeah, we have a chance. So I am fascinated. I want to say, right, we had Twin Peaks this year, and honestly, like, I think picking the best show of the year when we get a top 10 at the end of the year is going to be mighty difficult. That's a discussion for another day.
Yeah,
and
I don't want to think about that right now.
I mean, we can't even have this conversation. We only had one episode of this. But I did want to say that I felt a gaping hole in my heart when Twin Peaks finished. And for about a month or so, I had nothing like that. And Mr. Robot has came along and said, don't worry, we've got you.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, Mr. Robot is a tulpa. That's what he is. But I do think it's interesting, though, just to make a bit of actual comparison between the shows, that the idea of, like, doppelgangers and dual identities and, co-joining of two versions of the same person, very thematic in both. Even if
it's I mentioned how early on I decided I want to take notes for this, and I watched this first, weirdly, for once. Usually Peter gets to it before me. And I was like, yeah, you're going to want to take notes for this one. And I was thinking, Twin Peaks is the only show we've really taken notes on. And I was going, yeah, I think thematically this is the one that we should be doing it with as well.
It makes sense. Maybe Westworld as well when that comes back. Seems like a candidate.
I'm thinking that.
But, like, this... It's just, I think it's funny how, obviously they're different in a lot of other ways. I think Twin Peaks ultimately was about, good versus evil. And arguably this is also about good versus evil, but in a much more sort of modern, present-day, grounded way, where it's about, society itself.
Yeah.
And even like one of the things in that montage of him walking through the street giving his monologue is he noticed that, now they're selling F Society masks. So they've actually taken it and bastardized it and turned it into a product.
Yeah.
Which I thought was an interesting little point. And there's like a documentary series coming on about F Society coming to NBC this fall. Like, you've seen that in the TV. Mm-hmm. It was just this sort of cynical twist to it, that he tried to do something and it get taken by the ones who are powerful and twisted into something that just helps them.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens. So
It's great. I just found those. I did mention that I wrote down one line of lyrics. The line I wrote down is it says, "Almost convince me I'm real. I need something more."
interesting. Okay, no, good.
Yeah, I thought that was like, I want that one.
I'm okay with that line of thought. But no, I am fascinated by the new status quo that this episode is set up, and this new dynamic with Angela, who has suddenly become one of the most fascinating characters in the whole show.
Yeah, and I have to say, I think this was a stronger start than of season two, because season two it opened with the double, and we're like, okay, this was really interesting, but I didn't really know where it was going to go really with the season.
Yeah. Season took maybe a little time to get to the big moments like this, where I was
Whereas
really excited.
and this has gone, no, this is where we are now. This is where we're starting, and I feel like I have a grasp of what the purpose of this season is already. Like I get where it's going with
Honestly,
ideas.
two explanations for this in terms of just starting that bit tighter, a bit more focused. You know, there was characters in this we didn't even see. We didn't see Dom, we didn't see Joanna, we didn't see Philip or anything like that, and that's okay. It's focused. I had a thing it wanted to do. It was mostly around Elliot and characters who related to him. But I think the two explanations for this, and possibly a little column A, a little column B, is one, it's season 3. Sam Esmail has gotten more experienced. He's looked at season 2, which was a great season of TV. We give it best of the year, but still, some things that could be improved, and he's looked at that and said, okay, here's how I improve. And then the other thing that might be responsible for it is that this took a bit more time. This got an extra 2 or 3 months to make the season.
Yeah, and I think the third explanation potentially is just we're at that point in the plot where he's not having to dance around things. We're not having to wait. We're already there, so we can just hit the ground running.
Yeah. Which makes me wonder, like, in the overall plot, however many seasons he's got planned, does he have a 5-season plan? What?
Yeah.
Is it 4? Is it 6?
I don't know. He's definitely got a plan, though.
Yeah, but where are we in that timeline? Maybe it's the middle. It feels like maybe we are.
It feels
at that
like
point.
it's either the middle or like this is the beginning of Act 2. That's the only way I can really think of it.
But either way, I'm excited. So, Mr. Robot's back. Oh, is it back, baby? And I now have something to really have a highlight in the middle of the week. So that's nice. That's great.
It really is.
That's fantastic news. So, hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you were with us for season 2 and you've not seen anything we've done since then, and you've came back, hopefully the slightly more detailed scene by scene note taking for this one is to your liking. We did that for Twin Peaks, as I said, and that seemed to go down quite well. But yeah, so we're back with Elliot and the world of Mr. Robot. So let us know what you think of the episode in the comments below. Thoughts and theories, all that kind of thing. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mail_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel and everything we do here, go over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv and you can support us that way. Obviously that helps out a lot. But either way, guys, thank you very much for watching. It helps us out a lot. But that is us. So thank you once again. Keep watching TV. We'll see you next time. Have you got any vanilla?